never ready for starting because I'm listening to the songs. And you guys notice that I picked these songs that I'm listening to or I'm liking. That was Jimin, Who, and on my recent playlist. Good morning, so happy Saturday, September 7th. Welcome from Toronto as always. Love you. And from San Diego, thanks for calling so early, dialing in so early. I love it. This will be my last K-Talk live here. I always try to do it in when I'm in Korea, but it's so hard with the time difference. But I'll try to keep it up because I think I always have so much to share, and YouTube is the platform to do it because I can talk as long as I want. You know what I mean? And you guys stay on, which is great. So I had a lot of content I want to share. First, let me talk about some updates. The update is in less than like, I don't know, little like 24 hours or less. I will be, good morning from Arizona. I love it. I will be headed on a plane to Seoul. So we are leaving 24 hours earlier. Let me tell you, I think, I'm really busy when there are some things that we not forgot to take care of, but we have to take care of. And we went, oh my goodness, we need to be in Seoul by the 10th. So we had to move it up a day early. Thank goodness. I feel like the Delta gods knew, and they did not, there's no fare difference because costs would be crazy. So I think overnight, literally, like I had to share 5 days ago or 4 days ago, like literally we're talking to folks in Korea. We're like, oh my God, we need to be there at the 10th. And no, sorry, we need to be there the 9th, not the 10th, to be at a meeting on the 10th. So I'm just sharing all this stress with you. Hello, guys from New Hampshire. Oh, New Hampshire and Toronto and Arizona. I'm just sharing how this past week we had to move up our flight 24 hours earlier. But it worked out. And yeah, I literally mean it that I'm going to hit the ground running to get to a meeting the next morning in Seoul because we were not thinking of dates. When I book our tours for the fall, I think about our family. Good morning from New Jersey. Oh, I am thinking about my family schedule. So part of my updates I want to share with you is to keep me in your thoughts and prayers because this is a very busy time for our family. We have a son who's a senior. So there's kind of that sadness of like, oh my gosh, this mom guilt of like, we're about to go on tour, launch 3 tours and be like missing for like 2 months, So thank goodness we have a good family, and I'll tell you, like he could care less. I mean, of course he's like, I wish you were going to this. So a little bit of that sadness, just saying I had to share. And so I just feel like that a little bit of like, oh my goodness, this mom guilt that I just want to share with you. That's my update as I go. So think of my son who's a senior, and we'll be doing the most we can from Korea. And half the time my heart is in the US because I have family here, right? So I cannot wait to be in Korea. Oh my goodness, the UK, I love it. So it's a little bit, what time is it over there? In the afternoon? And then also from LA, I love you guys. You just cheered me up. Oh yes. Whoever is bored in the house, because I love that pen name or that social media name. Yes, of course we'll be there for his graduation. Hence why we schedule tours around all that, And so I would never miss it. And so that's the only thing. Mom guilt, feeling that. Montana, I love Montana. So that said, the biggest update is we have some great tours coming in the house in 2025. One of them being our K-pop tours. And what's really important to me is partnering or also just working and getting to know other communities. I've talked about this before, but I'm really excited about our new K-pop tours. I can't say that they're BTS tours, even though that's kind of what they're geared toward, but because just for copyright label purposes, but really, really happy about them. And you'll be seeing me hitting the ground running with my husband and son doing some of the BTS spots because we need to finalize some things. And I'm very proud of just all the teamwork on the back end, FYI. Can't do it alone. So I'm super excited that we have some great tours ahead. And of course our OG tours and they're going to be even better. As in some of the more activities that we're doing, I want to do a little bit more meditation with music, and I find them very beneficial. And I just always do them on my back end, but never brought them into my work because it's kind of hard to sit there listening to lyrics with you. But guess what? We're going to conclude today by listening to a K-drama OST and meditating. So I wanted to give that heads up to you guys and greet you guys. Everybody say hello to one another on it. I love it. as I'm going through some deep dives, because I have quite a bit, I want you guys to ask questions. And I felt like talking about all these content because there is a lot to talk about. So, and there's not enough space on Instagram or social media. And sometimes I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to do it live here. So I'm going to start first with the 2 reality shows or variety shows in Korea. So let's start with Are You Sure? Very fun. I'm about an episode behind. I think I'm on episode 5 and about to start 6, but just therapeutic. Now, here's the difference with some of these variety shows. Why I say they're therapeutic, because you're watching just cooking and everyday stuff. I love our K-dramas, but sometimes, again, they're dramatic, right? And they're stories, and they can be like triggering with the emotions and some, some aspects of stories that could kind of hit us hard. And that's why I use them for mental health. But when you watch things like Are You Sure? And then also Ginny's Kitchen too, I find them extremely, I literally days off watching them because it's just nice to see everyday stuff. And, these boys are fun. And it's funny how when I watch them cooking or making things, especially in Are You Sure? I love seeing them do very simple things. And you don't really get to see that, So I wanted to emphasize that show if you wanted to see it for fun, even if you're not an ARMY or just barely know about BTS, because some people don't, I highly recommend it. It's just fun to watch. And you're seeing their camaraderie. What's kind of sad is I wish they were all doing it together. So I'm rewatching In the Soup. By the way, In the Soup, we'll talk about Physical 100 too. In the Soup, season 1 is super cool. And I'm rewatching that for a reason, which you'll see later. But Are You Sure? And then the second one is Ginny's Kitchen 2. Absolutely adore this one. I didn't even know there was an episode 11. So I still think I'm a little bit I have to start that one. But what I loved about it was the fact that you saw them working hard. So I have a little bit of experience now with the docu-series. This would be not so much of a documentary, but like a reality kind of thing, half documentary, seeing them cook and have this pop-up restaurant of, I want to say, really hardcore traditional dishes. These are not easy. They did snack food before, and if you've seen Yoon Stay, that was also very traditional, but it's really neat to see them cook something that takes a long time, and you've seen them drain the fat. I mean, it's fond memory. I would also drain the fat. I haven't done that lately because it takes some time to make that soup, but you drain the fat and it takes a lot of care. So I like seeing that they're cooking like this and that camaraderie. And the reason why I want to share my own experience with like a documentary is a lot of it's real. They only edit out, a lot of the excess footage, but what you're seeing, they really keep to what's legit. Am I making sense? They're not editing things together to hodgepodge it. And that's my experience on the back end when I'm doing that Made in Korea documentary. It's very as is. And what they edit out is just all that excess footage that they take, because they take a lot of footage. So what Are You Sure About? Which member? Jimin and Jungkook and V at this point. Not all of them, but they went on this trip together and just documenting their fun. Right now, or when I finished, was Jeju. They were in Jeju. So it's kind of neat seeing Jeju since that's on our tour. Now, our tour is mainly K-drama based, but yes, of course, we're adding some of the restaurants they ate at. And so all of that I'm writing it down too. Plus, I want to eat there, and it's not going to be blocked off for, you notice it's blocked off for the BTS members to eat privately. It won't be like that for us. Ginny's Kitchen. Yeah, I love Ginny's Kitchen. And you know what I really want to point out? The fact that a lot of Asians are eating at that restaurant. Now, do you know that some people discovered they were filming in Iceland and flew there? And I love this. Do you remember when Cheo Shik was like, you flew from, Europe or London? And I was cracking up because I go, London it's in the same area, Europe, So I was cracking up going, it's right there, So I just think it's funny where he's like, oh my gosh. And of course, if you discovered that they were filming in LA, I'd fly right there tomorrow. Don't you think? I would. Yeah. So you would try to go and eat at a restaurant if they're filming a pop-up in somewhere in the US, which is easily accessible. So I think that was so funny seeing how the cast was like, what? You're here and you flew and you heard about or you heard that we were doing this. And I'm like, yeah, you guys do know you're famous, right? And then Minchi, who I absolutely adore on the show, and then seeing the frog, not talking about the frog a lot. It's not necessarily like something I recommend for your mental health, but very entertaining, scary, but gripping, very well acted by Ko Min-chi. She was excellent. And then you see her so cutesy, like my husband and I appreciate it even more. And I think that's super cool. You could see a reality show of the person and you're watching this dramatic, scary, She's psychopathic, excellent acting. So you appreciate who she is even more. Yeah. Hello, everybody. The couple that, yes, exactly. That couple from London. But you know what? I thought about it. I would do the same thing if I literally knew they were in the US and that was easily accessible, or even if they weren't in the US and we thought we could fly there and they were still filming. Yeah, right. Just saying. So I completely related to it, but I thought it was so funny that she's like, wait a second, you flew here? And you know what I also love? There was an episode where a Korean American or a Korean, someone from the Korean diaspora was also really, really surprised in such a good way about the response to the Korean food. I really related to that. So Ginny's Kitchen has a lot of depth for me in that sense. Seeing all these people in Iceland, now they were during the festivities of the holidays, so I guess that makes sense too. But seeing that there were so many Asian people coming and enjoying the food, and that's still a big part of why I do the tours. When you guys come and enjoy the food, it sounds so mundane, but you have to know, growing up when people were making fun of you for eating kimchi, it is such a big deal. So I really related to that person. I forget which episode, when he was like, oh my gosh, I'm so surprised, and in a good way, right? And it really matters a lot to your own identity. So that's Ginny's Kitchen. Now, highly recommend those. Like I said, just an easy therapeutic watch, and you actually could still multitask as you're watching it. I don't normally recommend for the K-dramas. Oh, I love it. Hello to the Soul Sisters here, people on the tour. Okay, so let's go on to the K-drama deep dives. A-list to playlist. Okay. This is more of also a reality docuseries. Absolutely love this one. And like, I should talk about it more, but I'm talking about it here. You know why I loved it? Okay, so yes, we're seeing a celebrity. Cho Jung-suk we've known him from Hospital Playlist and all the other K-dramas he's played. We knew he had a beautiful voice. So it wasn't about, oh my goodness, he's debuting as a singer, no surprise. I wasn't so much into that of him debuting as a singer as I was watching all the people involved in his debut. So what I want to emphasize on this, if we're going to do a mental health deep dive, is the community that rallied behind him. Now, granted, yeah, they all know him. He's well known, but he got some terrific, famous actors, people in his corner helping him debut. The message from A-list to playlist, which I love the name, is helping him. He has his own community that he did turn to and felt like he should turn to and needed to turn to help him, right? From his management team, absolutely love them, right? To his Hospital Playlist cast, which obviously they had such camaraderie, and the prank they played on Colm. I call him Colm. That was his nickname in Hospital Playlist, or amongst his friends, the bear. The prank they played on him, I felt like I was watching like a real life friendship situation, that it was not a documentary. For a second, my husband and I forgot that we were watching a show. So I wanted to emphasize, you guys, when you want to pivot, we can always pivot. I know people in their 60s getting their PhDs. You can find your dream or goal or define that. I did it. I would say, to me, it was later in life, but when I think about 30s, I was young. When I decided to pivot to mental health, I was the oldest one in my grad class, by the way. I found it so beautiful that, his wife was involved. Obviously, she's a seasoned, beautiful singer. And then you had people that I never even heard of. So I know Park Hyun-shin, he's very famous ballad singer. He was there with the one with sunglasses with his wife. But then that rap group, I didn't know about them, but the hip hop group, I loved seeing him do that. And then IU, I'm just listing all the people. And then Kong Hyo-jin doing his music video. So I don't think these are spoilers. You just need to see it. These are all the people involved in his debut as a singer. And then the concert, the people that participated in his concert, even I just assumed it was just be him debuting and him singing his songs like he wrote, by the way. No, he showed off the dynamic duo. This was the hip hop group that I never heard of. I had to Google them. And they did a whole show. I mean, they did a couple songs or a song. I think that's great. The people in the audience really benefited. His wife sang. So I'm sharing all this because my point of this docuseries, which I thought was just going to be fun, and him debuting and him doing a song and writing songs and being a singer and actor, was that I got to see a community come together, and the community of celebrities. So at the end of the day, it's great to go back to your support system and turn to your network. He turned to his network. He had quite a network because he had built that, because he is in that field. But I also do that too in my field. You need to do that as well. And so Think of the hospital playlist class that came for him, pulled a prank on somebody. Yeah, I had to watch. I mean, I have to totally watch that again. And then the debut and then the actual concert and seeing the emotion, right? And I'm thinking there's probably a lot more emotion that we didn't see maybe behind the scenes, like frustration. And then you know that Cho Jung-suk also got sick during his taping of this. So it's like all of that, he still made it work. Yeah. And again, he was able to make it work. I'm going to emphasize this. People are like, well, duh, he's a celebrity. No, a celebrity that, or an artist and an actor that reached out to his network to make it work. So anything is all doable because of your network. And that's what I got out of it. And so I had to share that. Now I want to take a second to read all your comments. Kind and genuine everyone yeah. And like even IU giving him the idea, she gave him the idea to rap or do something different. And I think that was her. And so he turned to the rappers for that. I loved it. See? And then it was great to add that diversity in this thing. And then someone talking about the Island of Sea Women. Yes, that Lisa C wrote a great book on that. And definitely anybody who's going to go into Jeju, because we will have a Haenyeo experience. Definitely. The Haenyeo experience is a big part of our tour. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, I'm so glad you found your people here. This is what it's about. Korean, you started listening to Korean music after watching Hospital Playlists. Yeah. And the music he had ballads, then he had something fun. And did you notice he tried to bring the audience in as concerts do? Okay. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend. Again, an easy watch, but you're seeing some of your favorite people come in. And if you saw the making of the music video, having the director, one of his castmates' friends, right? And then an actress that he starred in. So he starred in with all these people. He went to his network. So I'm just going to emphasize there, because at the end of the day, you can't do things alone. You can, but it's extremely difficult and it's lonely. So I had to bring that up. So I really believe anybody can do anything, but it's just 100 times more heartwarming and special when you have your community. Yeah. That's why I love my tour, folks. Yeah. Oh, champagne. I love it. K music is my go-to and I do relax or come down. And that's how we're going to end today. We are going to be relaxing and coming down by listening to something. I realize that's what I do. So I want to bring it into the show. So that's A-list playlist. Now let's talk No Gain, No Love. Okay. I brought this up. I started watching thanks to you guys, because I was like, I love Shin Min-na, but I was also overwhelmed with all the content. But I watched because you guys brought up all these questions about corporate Korea and their view on marriage. And I had to just decide to watch it to see what people were talking. I'm like, what are they talking about? Marriage? Is it really like this? And then I watched it. I went, oh, so this is where it's tricky. So in some sense, it's discriminatory, right? But this is Korea. And so they look at it very differently. But yes, married women get more benefits. And I don't work in corporate Korea, but I have many people do. I work with folks in corporate Korea. And it's true, when you get married, even the organization gives you congratulatory money. And the fact that I'm going to give you the premise, if you're not watching No Gain, No Love, it's very realistic. So Shin Mina's character, it's like that whole marriage contract, right? You're getting married just for either money or status or whatever that is. You know, you've seen this before. This is a trope. But the way it's done in this drama, she's all about being fair and playing fair and getting things that, you know, that she deserves as well, which I love as an empowered woman. And so she decided, wait a second, I learned that married women get these benefits, money when you get married. Yes, you do. And also the government now pays you money. And you guys know this because the birth rate is severely declining. So the government's doing everything they can to pay people to get married, which is, I would say, very odd concept, right? You know, and some people will get married for that money, I have heard. So that K-drama is realistic. And she wanted to get that money and get what she deserved in that sense. Now, the not so good fact is the single woman that I don't know yet. This episode drama is only episode 4, but there's a whole other aspect of where if you're not married, you do get slighted in the sense of you don't get the congratulatory money. And you'll see that married women might get more benefits, like when they go on maternity leave or married or honeymoon leave. Who covers for them? The single folks, right? And so that in itself is legit, meaning I do have friends who are single and sometimes they get called as single. And I wanted to bring this up because this is very, very, I think, a very family-oriented society that also has a birth rate in decline that wants to be like, here, get married. And you already have that pressure in the culture, right? But seeing it, I'm like, oh my gosh, and yeah, that's that money envelope. I also, when I got married in the US, but it was a very Korean, I would say Korean kind of / Korean American wedding, but led with Korean, because I was the first in my family to get married, extended family. So yeah, I had that money box, and people put the money in. So I got more of that money from the Koreans. It's a very Korean thing to do, even though I still registered for my American friends, right? So yeah, the Korean government, and it's not working. The Korean government paying folks to get married is not necessarily working. Not more people are necessarily getting married. But I did want to bring up the single factor. The folks who are single, I know lots of single women doing terrific things at work, but they could be overworked if they have to cover for a married woman who goes on leave because they're getting married or they're on their honeymoon, and they're not necessarily hiring more people. So they expect like a single person to cover that. That's the other reality. We might see that. And I think that was part of a Shin Mina's character. Haeyoung, I think that's her name, wanted to not be part of that. So in some sense, I like seeing her do this. I'm not saying get married for that reason, but it's very plausible. I'm just saying. So I just wanted to share that because the birth rate is a very serious issue. You see news all over it. They're up in arms. I have my own thoughts about it. Maybe I won't talk about it here, but I always say it comes back to mental health and all this stuff. But financially is a huge strain. Getting married and then having kids, you do see, and I did bring this up, I forget what call I was on with some Korean folks, but a lot of celebrities are having kids, and that's great, but they also can afford to have kids. So it's either the very well-off or the very, very poor who get the benefits, and everybody in between, not so much. So that's the worry of Korean society. I think that is the number one worry, because you do need new births. You do need babies, as you build the population. And I think there was this one scene in this neighborhood that my family lives at that we stay in. It's very residential across the river. And I saw all these young kids get off the bus late, by the way, because they have Hagwon afterwards. Yeah, that's all legit too. So kindergarten was getting off the bus at like 6:30 p.m. because they went to an after school thing. I don't know why I'm laughing, because I'm sitting there going, oh my God, it's late. But I saw a lot of halmonis and haribojis, grandparents, looking so lovingly at them that I was like, that's kind of sad, Even I was like, I was like looking at these little kids going, okay, I'm not necessarily ready to be a grandparent, but I'm beyond that stage. So I love babies. So you just see that. And it just made me sad going, there's not a lot of kids in the neighborhoods where I live at. If you're living across the river, not in the side of the city, but like Gangnam side, it's much more residential. You do see more kids and families. So we do get to see that. But I just think overall, that is the reality of Korea. So we just need to keep that in mind, the stressors, all that relates. That's a side note, but no gain, no love, I think is gaining traction. And I told my friends in Korea, I'm like, are you seeing this one? Because I want to know your thoughts in corporate Korea. And then they came back to me. They're like, oh yeah, hits hard, right? For some of the single women. And they don't want to just get married just because. But Shin Mina's character was like, I'm do this too, and this isn't fair that I'm giving. Remember, she was upset about how much money she had to give to somebody who got married and she wanted it back. All that is technically realistic, can happen. And so, of course, we know what could happen with this story. Love will win all. And I think that's good to see too. So I just had to share that. That is the reality of no link, gain no love. I want to make sure that I didn't miss anything else, because I have stuff to share on this one. Okay, that's it. And let me know if you have questions about that. Oh, I'm going to answer those questions shortly. You guys asked a bunch of questions. That's going to be after I go through these brief deep dives, because I realized I had stuff to say on these. Okay, let's go on to the next K-drama, and then I'll answer that question. Great question. Kajak Mello. Okay, so Romance in the House. If you have heard of the term, maybe you haven't heard of this term. It is in my field. I'm a family therapist. So in the field of family therapy, there is a term called parentification. Parentification. That is what you see in Romance in the House. I wanted to say it last time, but now we're really seeing it play out, and perhaps you are parentified. What this means is you were more of the parent in the household. It's when a parent and child reverse roles, and the child becomes the one taking care of the parent emotionally, physically. That is what's happening in Romance in the House. And you see it now in the last couple episodes where the mom is realizing it more and more. I absolutely adore the mom and daughter's relationship, and even the father and daughter's relationship. but there was some hardship there. So I wanted to bring that up because that literally stemmed from my field, that term of a parent leaning on a child emotionally because they have their own trauma. Divorce is actually the number one thing I tend to see where parents will rely on their kids. And the mom admitted it in one of the most recent episodes. I forget which one, 7 or 8, but she went, part of it's my fault, where my daughter has such, I guess, angst toward her own father because she kind of badmouthed her own father. Now, her own husband at the time during their divorce time or during their separation. You do see this a lot in divorce. That's why divorce is so hard on kids. I mean, I'm not going to even pretty it. It is very difficult on kids because parents take sides, right? And then they try to use their kids. And I've seen this, which is why I want to say now I don't do so much divorce because it took 100% of my time. Plus, I like to focus on the grief and trauma of things, and that was just my specialty. But there were times where I was a mediator, and I sit there going, the kid would be ping-ponged. Now, in Romance in the House, you're seeing the young adult daughter, working to support the family, and it's not because her mom didn't want to. So the mom herself was struggling, but she wanted to take care of her mom. And that was the thing I want to point out. That is the good in all this, a daughter that wanted to take care of her mother because she saw how much hardship her mother went through. But that is also parentification, where the child's like, I got to take care of my mom. And that's why you saw the scene. If you haven't watched it, there's a big blow up scene. I'm not going to do a spoiler, but where the mom just realizes it. And you see this blow up because she's like, I'm the mom. And that really hit me because I'm like, oh my goodness, that hit me so hard. But I wanted to bring that term into play. Is that you? Parentification for us who are, in our 50s, it's different. But if you are the child, the truth is, and what's a healthy parent relationship is a parent must be the parent. The parent is the parent. So I always bring that up. Like when I can be pretty firm with parents. It helps to be to be a parent as well. But I'm like, you're the mom. You're the dad. This is your job. You must raise your kids this way, or this is how you guide your kids. We have to pray. Sometimes our kids, turn out differently than we planned, even with the best of parenting. So that's another side note. But overall, a healthy parent relationship is when the parent acts as the one being emotionally in charge and physically in charge. And so that's what we're seeing with the daughter. So I do like the daughter's portrayal. She's been in some things like, I think I remember her last in Cinderella and the Four Knights, but I'm assuming she's in other things too. But I love the fact that you see that strain and pressure that she's taking care of everything. But again, that came about through the parents' relationship and divorce, and then the mom admitting she leaned on her or told her a lot. That's why it's hard. So I wanted to bring that up, and I wanted to get you guys thinking that that's a term that I work with a lot, and I see that in adults who were parentified as kids. And what is that like? Well, that is trauma. Parentification is traumatic. You're not supposed to be physically and emotionally taking care of your parents. That's why they have the parents or the caretaker or whoever the guardian is. That's why. So I had to bring that up in there. And that is just more of me educating on what that looks like and to understand that divorce is very difficult. So not to take it lightly, even if divorce had to happen. Yes, indeed. There are times I'm like, you need to get divorced. I've said it, but it's to understand what it's like with children in play. Next, let's go to Love Next Door. Ooh, I'm breezing through. Love Next Door. So, not to give a spoiler, but as we see things progress, I recently did a post on K-drama mental health genres. By the way, I only give 4, but there's like thousands, right? That could fall under, because people are like, you forgot this one. I'm like, no, I didn't. I just pinpointed the ones I wanted to point out. But Love Next Door, I put under burnout because I saw that in the female lead with Chong So-min's character. I really felt like that's why she came back. She was burned out. All the pressures that she felt from her family, right? The filial piety, that expectation driven, good older daughter wanted to do that, her oldest child, and came back, and you could see that burnout. So burnout also happens culturally. People assume it only happens in the workplace. No, it happens in the home. There is a such thing called cultural burnout, where you're burned out of your culture, you're burned out of family, you're burned out of your season of life. So I wanted to point that out with her. And so we're kind of seeing her figure out her dream, right? And that's what Chung Hae-in's character is doing, saying, figure out what you're doing, figure out your dream. And then we are seeing that come to play, because I don't want to give out spoilers because you guys might still be watching. But I wanted to point out one thing. There's a very precious scene between the father and the family. And I'll do the best of not giving a spoiler, but he brings out a theme that I wanted to bring out. Love and respect. So there's like that nuance with couples and families and parental units, couple units of love and respect. They both have to exist. But in some sense, I'll say what this father was pointing out was so poignant. I mean, I was like, my husband and I are both like tearing up because he was, first of all, what's his name? Johan Chol, the actor. We love him. He's in every K drama as like the very important secondary character. You know what I'm talking about, right? He's in like the biggest and best K dramas, and he plays the father of Chung So Min's character. And absolutely, there's a scene where he just felt inferior, and he kind of says it, and everyone's just listening. Oh my gosh, I love that scene. I felt like it's like a real life scene that played out where he's just sharing. He couldn't share some of his own struggles because he felt like he was just humiliated. There was a simple mistake that happened. We make mistakes, or we trust somebody and it didn't work out. And he just felt like, this is all I do. I make tteokbokki. Oh my goodness. Thinking about it is very emotional, but why did I bring that up? Because he was talking about the respect factor. And I have found we're working with men and women, love and respect are both needed, and they're both equal in a relationship, but men tend to identify more with respect. So when they feel respected, they're more apt to give that love. Vice versa with women, when they feel love, they can give that respect, but both are needed. But I'm bringing that up because I see that all the time. Like not just in the K-dramas, in real life, when you're feeling disrespected or when you're not feeling loved, which can happen in your own relationships, by the way. I just saw that theme in that one conversation he had where he just, in some sense, stumped his wife sharing this, and she had to reiterate. It's just a reminder to reiterate that you do respect your spouse or partner or person, and you do love them. This is not to be taken for granted. It takes work, right? So you know the scene I'm talking about. This is in, I think, the most recent episode. So I wanted to point that out. And that's the note I made about love and respect. Those two things in a relationship, both necessary, but depending on who you are, you identify with one more than the other a little bit to give the other. To feel loved, you want to feel loved. And when you feel loved, you are more apt to give that respect, and vice versa. And that's what I saw in that scene. So I absolutely love that scene. So those are see, this is what I do when I watch a K-drama, which is why I cannot watch more than 2 at a time. So the fact that I'm watching all this because I was on a staycation and not traveling is great, because I'm not gonna be able to watch this again like in the fall, more than one. So I wanted to share that. Thank you. Any other questions about that? I think I'm going to answer your questions. Is that the last deep dive, producer? I think it is. Okay. So let's now go to your questions, because you guys asked some great questions. Yeah. On that explanation of love and respect by gender, I'm going to make it clear. As a female, I identify with respect as well. But the love part kicks in more as a female, going, I need to feel loved and cherished. Do you remember my liberation notes when she's like, worship me, cherish me, chuang? There's that scene where she goes, please worship me. That really said it, that hit home. She also deserved respect, and she wanted that. She was a woman that was trying to figure things out on her own, but she needed to feel loved to show that respect, and vice versa. So that's like that cycle, right? I need to feel loved to show respect, respect me to show love. And that was in that scene. Okay. So hopefully that made sense. Let's go to this first question. Oh, this is a doozy. How can someone cope with loving but not liking a family member while dealing with trauma and poor health like Haeyoung? Haeyoung is the character in No Gain, No Love. To set it up for you a little bit, you see a distant relationship with her mother. You see that in some of the K-dramas, and it's a complex relationship, but you do still see her love her mother. So that is the complexity of our own well-being. You can definitely love your family because that's what you're supposed to do, and it makes sense. And at the end of the day, if something happens to them, yeah, it's going to be, you would feel devastated, but you don't have to like them. And she says this too in one of the episodes, which is why I think this is where this came from, that I love. She's like, yeah, I don't like her much. No, not really. Because they're like, don't you, how about your mom? She's like, no, not really close relationship. But then they were like, you just did this for your mother. She's like, yeah, but I don't like her, and I love that. Cho Jung-suk, I talked about him in A-List to Playlist. It's on Netflix. Or if you're looking for my explanation, I don't know what you mean by that, Sophie. But yes, this YouTube was recorded, but also his show is on Netflix. The A-List to Playlist that I love. But here with this, in fact, I tend to see more of the fact that you struggle with your family members more often times than not. But they're your family, so you do love them out of that concept, right? But then they're also, I will share this because I get asked this a lot as a therapist to comment articles sometimes. There is such thing called emotional cutoff in my field, where you do emotionally cut off from your family. And that's very much needed. And I think I shared about this last week. So I think anybody who is coping with a family member they struggle with, I'm not saying you cut them off, but there is that concept that they might need to happen for you to have some healing. Where that if that person's constantly around, like, infringing on boundaries, that enmeshment where nobody knows boundaries. This is very, very common in Asian culture and many cultures where they're like, oh, you're my daughter, so I'm going to ask you anything and be anywhere. But there are still boundaries, and it's not up to the other person to put the boundaries in play. You need to put them in play. I always say that. I go, yes, you need boundaries, but you need to do them. They're not going to define your boundaries. You need to go, here are my boundaries. During the week, you will not hear from me. I will not speak to you Monday through Friday because I need to focus on my work. That is some examples that I've done with clients, right? And this is part of coping. Coping is every day. It's not one and done thing. So there are times you might absolutely hate a family member. So you need to work through that. And honestly, distance helps. So you don't always have to answer every phone call. I certainly don't. Trust me. And I make it clear. I cannot. I go, I'm about to go do a live workshop. I ain't going to talk to my family right now. And that's what happens. And I'll even say to my kids, don't interrupt mama. I'm busy. So I have my own boundaries, and you have to say them or show them. But you also have to know how much boundaries you can handle. So if you feel like, I don't want to talk to my parents forever, I mean, can you really handle that? Or I don't want to talk to my sister. I'm just giving examples of who that is. Then be very clear on what you can handle. Maybe it's like, I need to take a little break from this family member. Maybe it's like a couple weeks, then do it. A couple weeks is very doable, but that's how you cope. And it's an everyday, very simple thing. Coping does not mean this grandiose rocket science. It is very simple techniques that you feel like have worked for you before, or you're like, or you ask for advice, or you go seek professional help. It's really hindering you. If you find yourself on a day-to-day basis not able to function, then that's where I might say, why don't you seek some help to kind of get you through this, because maybe you're really feeling this trigger and it's helping you and it's really preventing you from seeing things clearly. Then yes, this is where you might need a neutral party, but always look to your inner circle or family to help you out. But that's Haeyoung, and you see Haeyoung, Shin Mina's character, dealing in her own way with her mother, and we're just beginning to see her growth, right? I think it's 12 episodes. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, let's go to the next one. Hopefully answer that. How does no gain on more? Okay, no love or no gain, no love. Explore the trauma of maternal abandonment through different coping styles. If you haven't watched the show, there is an evidence of maternal abandonment or parental abandonment. Abandonment could mean literal, like the parent was not there at all, right? Absent completely physically, but it could also mean emotional. And from what we see, the male lead had more of the physical abandonment, and the female lead had the emotional abandonment. There's nothing more, like people are like, which is worse? I go, I can't answer that because it really depends on the person. Both are bad, right? They're abandonment by a parent that should be there for you. And Haeyoung felt emotionally neglected by her family. And you already see this in the 4 episodes, which is why she has a very complex relationship. Coping styles are very different. You're talking about a male versus a female. We deal with things differently. Let's face it, not men are from Mars, women are from Venus. I don't want to say that because I think we can have similarities too. Because I was thinking, someone mentioned that in one of my sessions. I'm like, no, I don't want to say that either, because nothing's so black and white always. But our coping is different. So I think you do see, and you saw the male lead share about it. The first thing is to admit that's how you feel. So out of this question, I was going to answer, if you feel that your parent wasn't there for you, you have to at least know that's what it is. Do you know many times there's this angst and they don't even know. And there are times that you work through a session for like 10 sessions. I'm finally like, do you think it's this? And they're like, yes, but that took 10 sessions. And so I'm just sharing that. You got to identify what it is that you're feeling this toxicity or angst towards your family member for. And in this case, it was that they felt like their family member or their mom specifically was not there for them. So I'm trying to think, different coping styles. Yeah. Well, they're male and female, so you can't compare because they will do it very differently. But Haeyoung in some sense shows very male tendencies. It's like, she's a go-getter. She's doing it this way. And I say male as in what you typically would see. I'm not trying to be stereotypical, but she shows it in such an empowered way that I like, and I think that's really important. I think there's more to the story. Her parents may not have been there emotionally, but they were fostering children. There has to be a reason for that the viewers do not know about. Very good point. Let me highlight that. That is a great point. So you're right. I'm doing deep dives right now with only episode 4, I think. So there's more that we have not seen, and someone just shared this. Oh, I don't think that was it. Sorry, I didn't mean to share that one. Let me get that one. That's not that one. See, this is when I can't multitask. Here it is. Yeah, there it is. There's more to the story of Haeyoung. Yeah, and we're only on episode 4. We know that her mom fostered children. Why? Right? And then she talks a little bit about, I don't want to give a spoiler, about her father, who she seemed to be closer to, right? And so there was some resentment there. That resentment, all of us have that in some sense of some person or somewhere, but you got to work through that resentment because that eats at bitterness, or that kind of turns into bitterness, which we might see in Haeyoung at this time. So very well said. Thank you so much. Thanks, Jeannie, for always sharing your expertise. I just shared your channel. Oh, well, thank you. And I didn't mean to share that earlier. I was like trying to multitask here. Couldn't watch Doona. Okay, so someone talking about Doona. Yeah, Doona is, I think Doona I put under toxic relationships. Doona is really, really complex, and I love Doona, and I recommend that. But then there's some great examples of Doona as well, of Doona coming out of her own as she was healing, where she also didn't have the best relationship with her own parents, and even her mom. You see her come into her own, and that's part of the journey of why we love these K-dramas. You want to see growth and change and development. We want to see that because we want some hope for ourselves and some aspirations for ourselves, and we want to believe that can happen even in the darkest of times. I'm going to share this. It definitely can happen in the darkest of times. That's why I do what I do. And that's why even in my own journey, you got to believe it gets better, or you're working through parental things or your own culture. Every day I'm reminded when I'm working in Korea, South Korea, the dynamics of Korean American culture. Just had to bring that up, right? I'm like, oh yeah, this is the Korean culture. Let me understand that. I'm at an age where I'm able to do that, but I had to bring that up. Every day I'm doing my own coping of like understanding the nuances that I feel like are a little old school, but that's okay because that is the culture. So let me go on to the next one because I think we still have like 8 more questions. Okay. What are your thoughts on the recent trend of older women, younger guy relationships in K-dramas? I mean, I think the one I'm thinking is No Gain, No Love, right? And then Love Next Door, they're the same age, right? This question was fun. I feel like there always has been older women, younger guy relationships. Like literally because the actresses are older than the men. And I think we see that I was thinking a lot. There's Noona romances everywhere. Something in the Rain, Romance in the House. These are some of my favorites. I Can Hear Your Voice. I'm just giving that old one that I love. There's many. I didn't know if this was a recent trend. I was trying to think. Anybody can think of, put it in the chat box, a recent one besides No Gain, No Love. Cinderella at 2 a.m. If you're watching Cinderella at 2 a.m., which I'm not going to deep dive really. I'm watching it for fun. It's kind of fun, they're cute to look at. By the way, did you know Cinderella at 2 a.m., the original male lead? Do you know who the original male lead was? For those on this call, put in the chat box if you know who the original male lead was for Cinderella at 2 a.m. Romance and Hagwon, thank you. Another older one. Yeah, so I think that the recent trend, it's always been there. But you know what? Sometimes they don't make it obvious, and I think they're starting to make it obvious. Yeah, Cinderella at 2 a.m. Encounter, yes. Well, I have to share this. Do you know who the original lead was for Cinderella at 2 a.m.? Because obviously people don't know. Yeah, it was Kim Sono. Kim Sono was supposed to be the original lead of Cinderella at 2 a.m. Just saying. And in the midst of everything that was happening to him after that scandal that broke out that turned out to be not true, just saying, well, all the facts were not true, he lost that endorsement. That's why. So I see that K-drama and I'm like, Kim Sono, I love the guy's so cute. I forget the actor's name, the one in Under the Queen's Umbrella. He's good in this. But I was like, oh, Kim Sono would have been really good too. Yeah, Crash Course. Oh, yes, Crash Course in Romance. Thank you. 10-year relationship. 10-year difference. No, there's so many. Some make it obvious. Well, they say, I'm your Noona, right? Like Something in the Rain. Even I Can Hear Your Voice, where it was Lee Bo-young. I love that one. This is an old one, 2011, but the classics are just awesome. They brought up the age difference. So I don't think it's necessarily a trend. I think it's always been there. I can't explain it why, but I just think maybe that's the case. I don't know. In real life, I don't necessarily see that as the case, but that's just me. But yeah. Romance in the bonus book is also 10-year difference. Yeah. Okay, let's go on to the next one. I crack up when people are like, hey, it gives me hope. What's your perspective on characters who selfishly ignore boundaries to pursue a love interest? Well, we see that in K-dramas. I think love blinds you, you know, and I think that is not necessarily always good, but it is. Thank you, Moon Sang Min. Yes, thank you so much. It is legitly accurate. Even in real life, you'll see in dating examples. I mean, sometimes I'm baffled in things I hear where I'm like, oh my goodness, this, you shouldn't do this. This is like not healthy boundaries, right? So my perspective is when I see it in K-dramas, all for the sake of love, I think I'm able to go back to the fact that it's a drama and not take it so literally unless it's cringeworthy. So even as I was looking at this question, I was trying to think of examples, and this is where I need your help. I can't think of examples where it was cringeworthy. Hold on. At Cinderella at 2 a.m., in some sense, people might say, well, and then he has a moment. You always see those redeeming moments where the character's like, oh, I didn't really honor her wishes to break up. I saw that in Cinderella at 2 a.m. So there's always that moment where the character realizes maybe they've gone too far. But this is very realistic, where if they really like somebody, you see people trying to break people up all the time. It happens in real life. Maybe this is more my field, but yeah, it happens. I mean, it also happens in marriages, affairs, doesn't matter boundaries. I mean, I think I have heard of things where people are like, being picked up on, and then someone said, well, I'm married. And they're like, that's okay. Like, it's okay if you're married. I was like, that person, what? Someone said that to you? It doesn't even surprise me anymore, people not respecting boundaries, but it is selfish because they're thinking about what they want, right? And sometimes that's not really love. Maybe it's like lust, right? Or just that very attractive factor that they think it's cool, that conquest. So there's all of that involved, and you see that all in the K-dramas. But the thing that K-dramas do well is they redeem some of that by showing how the person grows and changes. I always have to bring that in because that's the whole storyline arc, right? The trope of how somebody changes and matures over time. Now we are breaking up. I did start that. I never finished it. Yeah, she was older. Han Ji Min, is it The Blast? That's what it's called. I didn't know that one. And yeah, actually many actors in real life are dating younger guys. Is that really right? Oh my goodness. Like, name them. I would like to know. Well, Shin Mina is. I know that for sure. Kong Hyo Jin. Actually, you're right. There are quite a few. Obviously, I don't go too much into their real life, but you're right. I can think of the two famous actresses that I absolutely love. They are in committed relationships or married to someone much younger. But you know what? At the end of the day, because in real life, I have some friends who are also female friends who are older, much older than their younger husbands. It might have been frowned upon when they first got married, but they're in some of the rock solid marriages, And so I always like to bring that up. Like, age, people say age is just a number. It can impact things, right? Family, perspectives, core values, how you parent. But in the end, it's up to that individual couple, family, how that works. And sometimes you marry, I don't know, someone's older than you and they act like they're 20 years younger. Just saying. You see that as well. Okay. Yes. Okay. Love it. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Why do many K-dramas depict characters overcoming difficult paths through love? Because the love story is critical to a K-drama. And at the end of the day, that is the ideal. That is, you need to experience that love. And you're talking romantic love, but there's also, I see it as people who go through it without the romantic love. I mean, Hospital Playlist, there was all that love there too, but they were getting through so many struggles through friendship love, platonic love. So I define love in many, many spectrums of that. And that love is necessary. So this is the belongingness. You can't go through things. You can, but it'll be at a devastation to your mental health and physical well-being when you're by yourself. So when I gave that example of A-list to playlist and the community of him going through that, first of all, I don't even know how he did that in 100 days, but it's great that he did. The help of his community chimed in and we're there. And when you're going through the toughest of times, I'm sorry, you need people. You need your support system. And I've said this before, in a therapeutic session, even in my workshops, one of the key questions I ask is, can you identify your support system? And I hope it's a system. And even if I say, if you can, and then if people are like, no, because sometimes I get that, then I'm like, you need to identify one person in your safety net. That is the key question I ask. So when you're struggling, you have that support system ready. So that love, so the difficult past, that's the aspirational storyline that we need to see. Aspiration versus inspiration. Aspiration is very important. I say this in my book too, to see, wow, this stupid person, okay, so lack of a better word, wow, look how this person changes and matures because of this relationship, whether it's a harmony or a girlfriend or a mom or a friend or a neighborhood best friend. That is, of course, very inspirational too. So I think that's part of the story, and they make great storytelling. It's a great story, right? When you see people overcoming things through love, and in real life, that's what I want you to have. You need to have that, and you need to experience it. And it doesn't just come to you, by the way. You need to find the right people. And I think I've mentioned this before. Quality relationships are the key to happiness. That is based on the Harvard happiness study that I still study. And I think there's like 5 or 6 people left in that study that was rooted in JFK times. They have found it's not intellect or money. You all know this. No money, nothing, none of that. Not intellect, not IQ, not even like whatever, having everything in the world. It is the quality of your community that will make you happy. Yeah. Oh, Miss Day and Night. You know what? Oh my gosh, I think I'm only on episode 3 with that. I forgot about that one. I heard good things. Okay, let's move on to, are there any more questions? Oh, has the surge in global interest in Korean culture had any negative effects? Yes. I feel like this is a very complex question for me to answer as a Korean American. But yes, there's always negative effects to anything. The attention to Korean culture is great. I choose to look at things positively for the sake of my mental health, because it's so easy to look at things negatively. So I choose to do that. And it's a choice to be intentional going, but here's the good. And then I talk to people who always will see the double-edged sword or the negative, and that's there. But the negative is recently maybe even in fandoms, right? I study fandoms because I love looking at communities. And sometimes I'm like, they hinder me too, or they trigger me. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what is this? Right. So I stay off social media. But I think the recent surge is also people feeling very connected to the Korean culture. I see it on my tours. I absolutely love it. Those are all the good stuff. But the negative parts would be where people feel like they can comment on things or say very flippant comments about the Korean culture. Because then I've seen people actually go, oh my gosh, I've never seen you defensive. I will get defensive when someone talks negatively about the Korean culture when they're not Korean. So not saying that I should talk about negatively just because I'm Korean. No, I'm not saying that. But if you're not living the culture, if you don't know it, or if you're not even part of Korean society, and people have said, Jeannie, you don't live in Korean society. And I go, well said, you're right, I'm not. And I always say that then I don't know if you should comment, because then you can contribute to the negativity, because at the end of the day, there are people that live in this culture and they're living things, right? And you see it in the news, you see it play out in social media, and you see it play out in fandoms, and all of that there's great to it and much more good to it. But the negative effects would be that people commenting. I had actually someone tell me, where was it? Sometimes I can't remember because I'm in Zoom sessions a lot. It was very recent. And I was very firm saying, well, I'm going to say this, but I think, and I said it very nicely. I go, well, I think my knowledge technically trumps yours, because I know I'm Korean American, but I grew up in a traditional Korean culture. And I said this, and later I went, oh, Jeannie, wow, you're getting firmer, because it was someone telling me about my identity. So that would be the only negative effect, where you might see the Korean diaspora. The Korean diaspora is people whose home country is South Korea, some North Korea, because that is where my relatives are from, like decades ago, or like ancestors, who feel that people can say these things assuming they know so much about the Korean culture because of K-dramas. But Korean dramas are just also dramas. You see societal issues, but remember, how one family lives is very different. As a family therapist, I'm even shocked always when I go, oh my gosh, you guys are 2 siblings and you see your parents completely different. I always say that example because I'm shocked when I talk to my sister. I'm like, what? That is not how it was. And she's like, yes, it is. So we'll find out about it. And I'm like, that's not how it was for me. So very different. So that would be the negative, where people can comment and talk to you like they know your identity. And that is a big mental health distress. That is my work. Your identity is your identity. You are the expert of you. So you should say that. So regardless of whatever culture you come from, you can say, well, I'm Jeannie Chang, so I'm the expert of Jeannie Chang because I live Jeannie Chang's life. That's what I mean. And that is a lot of what I teach. And so I get very particular about that. I'm like, no, you know your culture. You know your family culture. You live into that. You say what it is. Don't let other people say, oh, so this is how you should be, right? And so I'm going to pause here because I think I have a couple questions, but I want to make sure I'm not missing something. I'm in a younger man, older woman relationship going strong for 35 years. Love it. And it's an interracial relationship with 2 kids. Exactly. So age is, like I said, it really is age is but a number. And I'll see some relationships where it makes sense traditionally and not so good. You know what I mean? So nothing surprises me anymore just because of my line of work. Only a true person that comment in culture. Yeah. And so I've even had some of my Korean friends look at me going, well, it's not like you work in corporate Korea. And I went, right. You're right. Because I'll get that way because I consider myself like a corporate workplace expert. And I'll be like, yeah, that's what you need to do. And they're like, yeah, easier said than done. So I've been told as well. So I'm like, you're right. Sorry. And I have to remember things are just not black and white. Nothing's black and white. The other thing I want to bring up too is with the toxic fandoms, there's toxic fandoms. I think I brought this up last time. Be cautious because, you see so many things on social media and you can get caught up in it. And then it can also make you have a perspective that you didn't have before that's toxic. And I see that with some folks, meaning I need you to know when you're being influenced, when it's in somebody else's perspective. So go back to your core values. What are your core values? And lean into your core values. This is a concept of mindfulness. So step back and go, what do I believe in? Like, who do I like? Who are my favorite K-pop artists? Why do I watch this K-drama? That's the questions you ask. Yeah. Okay. And then I think there's one more. Yes, this is the last one. What are your thoughts on how mental health is being addressed in recent K-dramas? Well, this is my thought. They're in every K-drama. I laugh when I say that because mental health is an everyday thing. Yeah. I say it every day. It is you wake up and think about your mental health. You don't say, let me think about my mental health. You're not wording like that, but you wake up going, how am I feeling? Oh, I feel so tired. Or, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed out. Or, wow, I'm so excited. That's your emotional well-being. Or it could be, oh, I'm dreading work today. I got to see my boss, social well-being. Or I'm so excited today. I'm going to meet lunch with a friend, social well-being. Now, not every day you're thinking psychologically, but your brain is impacted by everything you're going through, whether it's a life stressor that's really, really peaked at this time that you're really struggling to something that's really joyful and that's impacting you psychologically, happy and sad, sorrowful and joyful. All of those is every day. And so when people ask me this question, I'm assuming probably they mean mental illness. Mental illness is very specific and it is a specific diagnosis. Like I won't say, by the way, I'm diagnosing with a mental health condition. You're kind of depressed right now. No, I'll just say, yeah, it sounds like you're going through a rough time. Like you're more sad because you lost your job. That's how it's worded. But if I see it as a mental illness where it turned into prolonged depression, where they need a little bit more intervention, for instance, maybe medication or consistent therapy, or a little bit more of me going, this is what we need to do because I need you to come out of this, that would be a mental illness. That would be like, for instance, major depression. This is just a term, it's very technical. And people will sometimes ask me, do you tell your clients their diagnosis? No, unless they ask. And actually, rarely people ask, but sometimes they'll come and going, I think it's this. Do I have this? And I'll confirm yes or no, And my favorite thing about that is just maybe because I come from a medical background. I started my career in medicine too, in the clinical primary care, and I come from a family of doctors. I do love the mental illness when we figure out a diagnosis. And I will tell them if I think it benefits the patient, where I'm like, you know what? This is why you're feeling this. So now I need to refer you to get medication, like for ADHD, for instance. That's when I tend to see a lot of people going, oh my God, it is ADHD. I'm like, yes, it is. Yes, I do diagnose ADHD. Actually, that's more common than not these days, So that question of mental health is in every K-drama, every family conflict you see, every joyful scene you watch. That's mental health, but not mental illness. And if I'm going to answer this more broadly, the reason why the book came about is because I really felt like they did a good job addressing it or showing it, good and bad. I love seeing that traumatic part because that's realistic. But then what do you always see in a K-drama? How do they build their resilience through a traumatic part? So even love, not love and love next door, romance in the house, the daughter and father's relationship, I'm still very much watching that. You're seeing things progress and change. And if anything, at the end of the day, I think it's very beautiful seeing that change. But I really love the daughter, her own, you're seeing that struggle. You feel this heaviness of her being parentified. I'm the parent, I got to earn the money. She was looking after her brother. I see all this in real life. This truly, maybe it's you, and maybe that was you. It's very, very taxing. And so maybe you do your own work on how that was with your own relationship with your parent, you know? And so what needs to change, what we're seeing in Romance in the House, maybe that's going to happen today. Got to watch those episodes or download them for the plane, is perhaps seeing the mom take control. And that's what I saw. So I was going to end on that note. So seeing that hopeful note of the mom, people were like, oh my gosh, the mom is doing this. I'm not trying to give a spoiler, but she's kind of taking action. But I saw it as the mom is doing it for the sake of her daughter, to kind of give her that freedom that maybe she wasn't able to do before, because she was kind of lost herself. And now we're seeing things change. I really love that one. I didn't think I'd love it so much, but I see a lot of family stuff. All right. I think that was the last question. And I'm going to go through here to see if I'm missing anything. It doesn't look like it. I love the engagement here. Thank you guys sticking with me. I'm always averaging an hour. I guess that's what it is. That's why I can't do these recorded reels half the time. I'm like, I got to share about this. So hopefully you got something out of today. I am leaving first thing. Pray for a safe flight. I will be in Seoul. Oh, music and mental health. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, producer. Okay. I want to play something. If you guys have time, I want us to listen together to this K-drama OST. I posted something this week on OSTs because I was finding them relaxing my clients and me. And I might start doing them in my workshops now, because I usually play BTS because everybody knows the songs. And I like making people very energetic when they walk in. But this particular week, a couple sessions, actually just 2, I was like, let me just play this as they kind of come in. And everyone was like, what is this? And I liked it. So I'm going to play this K-drama OST you will probably recognize. I want you to watch the video that we're going to play here as you're thinking. But what I'm asking you is make some notes of how are you feeling as you're listening? What comes to mind? If you feel like you could share, please do in the chat box. For instance, oh, I just envisioned me and my son doing this. That was something somebody shared in one of my sessions. So I'd like for you to do that as well. And that's, we're going to close with 3 minutes. I think it's 2.5 minutes listening to the song, and then I'll wrap up. Thanks. I'm so glad I have a producer who remembers this.
두근대는 맘을 따라 너에게 가는 나의 발걸음은 마치 구름 위를 나르는 듯해 꿈속에 언젠가처럼 Only if you're waiting for me
나와.
Then I could walk through the fire for you. When you say my name, the whole world stops. I'm amazed at the way you see me. 왜인지는 모르겠지만 자꾸만 웃게 돼. 너의 마법에 걸린 것 같아. 나는 Wherever you go, whatever you do, 널 알아볼 수 있을 것 같아. 멈추지 않는 내 심장이 죽을 것 같이 뛰고 절 속의 이야기들보다 더 그대 날 들뜨게.
I'm going to end on that note. Yes, made you think about Queen of Tears if you hadn't said it. I wanted to share this. I love that some of you shared your emotions. I actually heard a lot from clients and also your DMs of folks who listen to this to give them some hope. So that's why I decided to share it. So that's how powerful OSTs are. I'll start doing this more and more because I'm really enjoying doing it with my clients. And some of them are like, never heard of this K-drama. I'm like, it's okay. Let's just listen to the music. And so it can just pop up different things. The video helps because we've seen it. But music is very powerful and actually is a very good way of kind of diverting your attention from something when you're listening to something. That's why classical music is good for studying. But I love listening to the OSTs too, to relax and calm myself down because I'm always on the go. So I know tearing up. I know I was watching this going, so that's one. It was between that and Our Blues because I used Our Blues as well this week. But there's more to come. I will be trying to keep this up. And Hyunbin in Toronto, go and find him. Go to Toronto Film Festival. I will be at the Busan Film Festival in October, so you'll see me there. But I am headed to Seoul. Wish me luck. Excited. I'll hit the ground running. I will be doing an IG live on September 12th, the anniversary. It's actually RM's birthday, but it's also the anniversary of my tour. So I wanted to do a live from Seoul. So you'll see me there. But if not, I will. What? You saw him in the airport? Okay. That is a big deal. Did you take a picture? Just, without being stalkish. But that's somebody who saw Hyunbin in Toronto, probably promoting his movie. That's awesome. So I love it. Thank you guys for sticking with me and hope this OST sends you well. I'll see you guys soon from Korea. Can't wait to greet you guys.